Some people don't merely live in the world, they feel it. They perceive nuances that others ignore. They take on sorrows that aren't theirs, and often they are broken by it. Tanjiro Kamado is that kind of person. He wasn't born to fight, but he was forced into it, and yet he chose not to lose his tenderness. Tanjiro is a boy with a gentle soul in a violent world, and that is, at the same time, his greatest strength and his deepest wound. Today, we will explore the psychology of Tanjiro Kamado, a deep dive into the mind of someone who feels too much and still stands. Every psyche is built upon early emotional experiences. In Tanjiro's case, his childhood shows us not only the origin of his trauma, but also the foundation of his profound empathy. Tanjiro grows up on an isolated mountain with his family. Even when young, he already carries the weight of adult responsibility. After his father's death, he takes on the role of caregiver. He goes down to the town to sell charcoal, helps with chores, and protects his younger siblings. This is where his most important archetype is born, the caregiver archetype, one who lives to protect others, even at their own expense. This behavior usually arises in environments where there is early loss, instability, or family illnesses. Tanjiro matures quickly, and more than that, he learns that his worth lies in being useful, kind, and available. From the perspective of developmental psychology, Tanjiro internalizes a very common belief among eldest children from humble families. If I don't take care of everyone, something bad will happen. This type of mindset generates profound empathy, but also chronic guilt. He doesn't allow himself to fail, and this will be central to understanding his emotional journey. The scene of his family's massacre is one of the greatest psychological ruptures in Kimetsu no Yaiba, not just because of the brutality, but for its symbolic depth. Tanjiro goes down the mountain on an ordinary day. When he returns, everything he loved is gone. Only Nezuko survives, but not as a human, as an Oni. Here, we have a combination of three types of psychological trauma. 1. Sudden loss trauma. He could not say goodbye. 2. Survivor's guilt. He survived while others died. 3. Emotional ambiguity. Nezuko is alive, but she is not. Tanjiro goes into shock, but keeps his function to protect his sister. This is essential. He does not enter a state of hatred. He enters a state of preservation. In most shonen protagonists, this moment would mark the transition to a revenge arc. Tanjiro, however, chooses something radically different. If there is something human in her, then there is still something human in everyone. Here is born the mission that defines his identity. Not to kill Onis out of hatred, but to seek a cure, redemption, a path that preserves life. Psychologically, this decision represents a deviation from what Campbell's archetype theory would call the traditional warrior hero. Tanjiro approaches more the healer hero, a figure who seeks to restore balance, not only to defeat evil. Tanjiro becomes, therefore, a rare symbol in shonen fiction, one who fights, but fights so that fighting is no longer necessary. Tanjiro has a rare talent, not in combat, but in listening. He does not fight only with his sword, he fights with his heart. Every battle is preceded by an attempt to understand and followed by a tear. Tanjiro cries for the Onis he defeats, and this is not weakness, it is humanity. Many of these Onis were humans, victims, abandoned. When he faces them, there is anger, but also compassion. Instead of dehumanizing them, he recognizes them as souls distorted by suffering. Psychologically, this represents the refusal to dehumanize the enemy, a common practice in times of war. Tanjiro, however, breaks this cycle. You became an Oni because you were hurt. It doesn't justify, but it explains. This is cognitive empathy, the ability to understand what led another to act as they do, even if you disagree. It is also a revolutionary act. In a world that only responds with violence, Tanjiro insists on feeling. In many cultures, including Buddhism and Shintoism, this ability to recognize another's pain without judgment is considered a spiritual virtue, the path of the Bodhisattva. Tanjiro, even without naming it, follows this path. Even when defeating, he embraces. Even when winning, he laments. Tanjiro transforms the world's pain into silent poetry, the pain of feeling too much. Tanjiro has a supernatural sense of smell. He sniffs intentions, emotions, pains. But what does this truly represent? In symbolic psychology, smell is connected to the primitive unconscious. It is the first sense developed in humans, linked to survival and emotional memory. Tanjiro doesn't see the world with his eyes. He feels the world in invisible layers. He perceives emotional cracks, internal ruptures, doubts, fear. When he identifies the smell of opening, it's not just a physical breach. It is the moment the Oni hesitates, when it feels fear, when, for a second, it returns to being human. This sense makes him almost shamanic, a medium between two worlds, the living and the corrupted. Again, the symbolism reinforces the central idea. Tanjiro is someone who feels too much, literally. Smell is the most visceral sense, and in Tanjiro's universe, it becomes a bridge between the souls of others and his own intuition. When he detects the smell of sadness, he is literally inhaling another's pain, and this moves him. Not by chance, his breathing, combat style, is linked to water, the element of emotion, fluidity, transformation. Tanjiro literally breathes empathy. But Tanjiro isn't just kindness. In decisive moments, especially against Rui, Akaza, and Muzan, we see powerful outbursts of anger and murderous instinct. The question here isn't whether he feels anger, but how he feels it. Carl Jung said that every individual carries a shadow, the repressed side of the psyche, composed of emotions we don't allow ourselves to feel. In Tanjiro's case, anger is his shadow. He represses it all the time until it emerges in critical moments. The difference? He isn't consumed by it. He channels this anger into the fight, to protect, not to destroy. This is the defense mechanism called sublimation, transforming negative impulses into constructive actions. Tanjiro doesn't run from his anger, but redirects it. And this emotional mastery is one of the clearest signs of psychological maturity. He learned that being good doesn't mean being passive, and that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. Feeling too much comes at a price. Throughout his journey, Tanjiro accumulates trauma. Each mission, loss, and battle leaves scars, not only on the body, but on the mind. Perhaps no single event crystallizes this psychic cost more devastatingly than the death of the flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku. Witnessing Rengoku's heroic sacrifice against the upper moon Akaza is a brutal turning point for Tanjiro. Tanjiro is forced to watch a figure of immense strength and kindness be struck down, while he himself is largely powerless to intervene effectively. This helplessness is a profound blow, especially for someone with Tanjiro's caregiver archetype. His desperate cries for Rengoku are filled with an agonizing mix of grief, admiration, and the crushing weight of his own perceived inadequacy. While Tanjiro already carries survivor's guilt from his family's massacre, Rengoku's death adds another unbearable layer. Rengoku died protecting him and others. This fuels the "if I were stronger narrative that plagues those with high empathy and a sense of responsibility. Rengoku's final words to Tanjiro, "Set your heart ablaze, go beyond your limits," become both an inspiration and an immense pressure. Tanjiro internalizes Rengoku's will, taking on the weight of his expectations and the desire to honor his memory. This is noble, but it also adds to the relentless drive that pushes Tanjiro towards self-sacrifice. The flamed Tsuba, sword guard, he later inherits, is a constant, physical reminder of this loss and responsibility. The encounter with Akaza and Rengoku's subsequent death also ignites a more focused and potent form of Tanjiro's anger. It's not just the shadow anger discussed earlier, it's a righteous fury born from witnessing injustice and the loss of a cherished mentor. This anger, while still channeled into his mission, carries the sharp edge of personal bereavement. Rengoku's death isn't just another loss, it's a searing lesson in the harsh realities of their war, the cost of strength, and the painful impotence that can accompany deep empathy. It profoundly shapes Tanjiro's understanding of what it means to be a demon slayer and deepens the furrows of pain etched into his soul. There are moments when he collapses, when his body breaks down and his soul threatens to give in. Yet he rises. But this cycle of exhaustion and constant overcoming, sharpened by losses like Rengoku's, carries the risk of what psychology calls compassion fatigue, when you feel so much for others that you forget to feel for yourself. Tanjiro internalizes the pain of Ani's fallen companions like Rengoku, Nezuko, the world. This makes him noble, but also vulnerable to emotional exhaustion. No wonder we see in several parts of the story moments of deep exhaustion. He faints, deliriums, dreams of his father. The unconscious tries to compensate for what consciousness insists on bearing. Furthermore, Tanjiro shows signs of complex post-traumatic stress, recurrent nightmares, hypervigilance, constant guilt, and a sense of mission so rigid it borders on self-sacrifice. Events like Rengoku's death are significant contributors to this complex trauma. If I fall, who will protect them? This implicit question shows the weight he carries. Tanjiro is gentle, but his gentleness tears him apart inside. And here lies perhaps the deepest dilemma of his psychology: how to keep being empathetic without destroying himself in the process. The answer is not only in his strength, but in the bonds he builds. Tanjiro is never truly alone. Even in his darkest moments, the presence of Nezuko, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and the Hashira sustain him. Psychologically, this reflects the concept of secure attachment and social support, crucial factors in resilience. The empathy he gives and receives creates a protective net that buffers his suffering. This network allows him to share his burden and find motivation to continue. His relationships are complex, full of challenges and conflicts, but they are the foundation of his humanity. Tanjiro's ability to form deep emotional bonds prevents him from being consumed by the very pain he absorbs. Tanjiro Kamado teaches us a profound lesson. To feel deeply is both a gift and a curse. His journey is a testament to human resilience, the strength to face immense pain without losing compassion. He embodies a rare heroism, not of destruction, but of preservation. The pain of feeling too much can break us or make us whole. Tanjiro chose to let it make him whole. Be gentle with those who feel too much, for they carry the world's wounds within them. If you resonated with this analysis, please like, share, and subscribe to It's All Mental Senpai for more deep dives into anime psychology.